Okay.
All right.
Jesus, this already looks brutal.
Yeah.
Sorry, no comments. Sorry, no comments. Immediately breaking the only rule.
What's the only? Oh, yeah, 2 slides. Yeah.
We talked about Fight Club.
Yeah, I felt like 2 slides. I needed a. Actually, what happened was when I sat down to do this, I typed in the word key, and PowerPoint's really cool at like, hey, here's some suggested backgrounds, and I was like, all right, sure, why not? All right. So, I will go ahead and start. So, I hope that everybody is having a great day, and I hope that you continue to have one, unless your favorite Pokemon is Klefki, in which case we're about to not be friends anymore. I've called my presentation The Key to Failure, and I want to talk about that a little bit as to why. So to try and keep this as short as possible, I've got 3 primary points for why I think that Klefki is objectively one of the worst designed Pokemon and an affront to Arceus. So go ahead and progress the slide, please, Scott. 2 clicks. 1 more, please. There we go. So my first point is the in-universe lore of what Klefki is. The Pokedex states that Klefki used to live in mines where they fed on metal ions until those sources became scarce. Then they moved into cities to, and I quote, feed on metal ions by inserting its key-like horn into kinks in metal. Even though they feed on these keys, they're said to never release a key that they like, holding on to it potentially for decades. They also sneak into people's houses and steal keys. Okay. So there's a little bit to unpack there. First, I want to talk about the metal ions that Klefki typically fed on are basically implied to be all but completely harvested. So keys, a little science here, keys are typically made from a brass nickel compound, and given the Pokemon universe's similarities with technology to our own, I think it's a pretty safe assumption to say that this means that the Pokemon universe is almost devoid of nickel, save for those found in the keys that they make. And if not, at the very least, they have a unique metal that is almost purely used just to make keys. Otherwise, Klefki would be drawn to, the larger concentrations of them, larger sources. And furthermore, given what we experience in the games, no one in this damn universe locks their doors anyways. So, I mean, realistically, how many keys are in existence? This also implies that the ions in the metal keys can be used up and discarded. And so that kind of brings me to what is my second point. Scott, go ahead and click, please. And that's going to be the typing of Klefki. Klefki is a Steel Fairy type Pokemon. So, okay, Steel, yeah, great, I'll give it to you. But Fairy, Game Freak, you were seriously going to give me lore about a Pokemon that consumes ion and not make him an electric type? Like, that's just bad design and typing for the sake of uniqueness. They just saw Fairy and were like, yep, we need one that's also Steel. And then 2 gens later, they came out with Tinkaton. Furthermore, the Fairy moves that Klefki gets just don't make sense. That couldn't be replaced by, like, a better electric type move. So, like, Draining Kiss, it's got a teensy little mouth with no lips to kiss. Play Rough, what's it going to do? Float slowly towards the enemy with a blunt key and no force? Fairy Wind. What are you going to do? Flap the keys like wings? And then there's Fairy Lock, which is Klefki's signature move. While I'll give it points for cleverness, locking down the battlefield and all, its only application is in double battles and is overshadowed by moves like Scary Fate. It also prevents Klefki from swapping out since it locks down the entire battlefield, and it leaves what is otherwise just like a basic support Pokemon relatively vulnerable unless you build your entire opening comp around it. Go ahead and click for the next point, Scott. And then that brings me to point 3, which is the design of Klefki. It's a pair of keys. That's it. The stupid part actually is that it's just a key ring. The keys are not part of the design. It always just has them attached. The face is a little bit cute, but like, what's the little pink dangly bit down there? What is that? Why does it have a mouth? It feeds through the horn on its head. And why is the mouth shaped like a keyhole? It's purely aesthetic. No key is unlocking that. It doesn't use its mouth. It just doesn't make sense. So most keys are either like, you pick up your keys to like your car. And so a keychain is typically centered around like one larger key, like, you know, cars typically come in, or it's some kind of like cool or cute keychain. The key ring itself is just a bland, lifeless piece of metal, just like this Pokemon. So with that said, I think that, you know, these 3 points are pretty cut and dry. So the lore, go ahead and click, Scott. It's incoherent. The typing, it's illogical. And the design is trash. So thank you for giving me your time and attention. I will accept questions and concerns. And if you want to fight me, I will cry if you hit me, but I will win in the end.